Let me say a few words about e-commerce as your manager may see it. This is important because this is the guy who's going to make your life a living hell if you let him have these completely false ideas about what e-commerce is and how hard it is. Some people who are utterly uninformed about what e-commerce is think that it can be simple. So you have a cart, you have checkout and payment, and this shouldn't be very hard. Just implement PayPal and you're done. You have a week. And in the context of a CMS, they kind of have a point because there are actually services inside of a CMS that can actually help you a lot and win you a lot of time. Products are content items, essentially. They are a description, a title, and you just add a price, and you have something that more or less looks like a product. You already have reviews in the form of comments and votes. You have photos for your products using existing galleries, which we even have built in now, almost. You can have static pages for your website that are already there. You have search. You can have related items by having relationships between items. In the case of our chart, that would be a content item picker field. So it's very easy to implement all of those, but that is only a very small part of e-commerce. It may be the part that your manager sees, but there is a lot more than that to e-commerce. So yeah, there is the cart, there is checkout, which on their own are already quite complex. Even something like a shopping cart, you can actually put a shopping cart together in an afternoon and have something that looks like it will work, but you've probably only scratched the surface. Just on the cart, you need to think about, okay, what happens if I close my browser and I come back? Should I still have my cart? So you need to implement local storage. And what happens in a lot of situations? What happens to the cart after you've ordered? Does it get emptied? How does this happen? There are lots of workflows that you need to think about. And then you get into the tricky stuff. So the tricky stuff becomes especially tricky when you're doing international orders. Taxes on a global scale can be quite the nightmare. Just doing it domestically in the US, well, the US is not just one country, it's a set of states, and they all have their own rules about where you apply taxes, how much you apply, and so on. So just taxes can be quite tricky. But when you get to shipping, now you really have descended into some very deep circles of hell. I don't really know what the problem looks like from outside of the US in terms of shipping, but I can tell you that in the US it's quite complex, and I actually show you how bad it is. Order processing, inventory, rule-based discounts and promotions, and then you can have, depending on what kind of site you implement, you can have bundles, which are sets of products that you consider as one product. And when you do that, you have inventory problems, as I will show. Reviews, related products, faceted search. Faceted search wasn't so trivial to implement. It's gotten a lot easier in 1.7, but you still need to implement it. Let's talk about payment gateways first. They are all horrible. There are a few categories of payment gateways. You have the payment gateways that screw you just a little. You have the payment gateways that screw you a lot. And, well, that's not exactly true. Actually, you get to choose where you get screwed, but for example, the ones that are going to give you good rates usually are going to ask you to do that amount of business every year, and otherwise you're not interesting to them. So you don't even get to use them. And they all have their different APIs that are all incompatible with one another. So when you commit to one provider, you're kind of committed to life, because it will take you months to switch to another one, just developing the new interface to them. What I put on the slides here is a very, very microscopic part of the API for, I think the XML one is Google, and the other one is authorize.net, which used to be pretty popular because it was kind of working, but they're all horrendously complicated. And the reason why they are so complicated is that they try to be universal. They try to handle all the little edge cases that you have for payment services. Whereas what we really want is something that just lets you post an amount, a vague description of what you want to get a payment for, and you want to get a token back. And this is exactly what Stripe implements. So this is kind of a new actor. They've only been here for not very long, probably. I don't know exactly how long, but probably something like a year or two. But what they're doing is absolutely great. I don't know what kind of equivalent services are available outside of the US, but if you have a commerce site operating in the US, that kind of service is something you should be willing to pay more for. So those guys charge, I think it's something like 3% of what you make, which is a lot when compared to the other crap. But well, it depends how you value your time. I kind of value my time a lot, so I prefer to use those guys than those, by far, even if it costs me more. So I'm in the process of implementing Stripe for my own e-commerce module. It's just that everything takes time, even the simple stuff, but this is as simple as it gets. You may be tempted, depending on what kind of business you operate, to go for a fully integrated solution. Fully integrated solution being one where you just let that provider not just do the payments, but also do your inventory, your order management, and everything that goes around it. So it's a full package. So it has some advantages, but it also has some really strong disadvantages. For example, Amazon here. Well, the biggest disadvantage, as far as I'm concerned, is that those guys screw you even more than the other ones. You are not going to sell anything on Amazon if you don't give them at least 15% of what you make. 15% is a lot. And what you see here is one screen of their product description page. So you can probably barely see it because it is so horrendously large that I had to reduce it to absurd proportions. But you have tabs on top here. This is just one tab. And this is the vital information. If you can imagine managing a full catalog with that kind of horrible UI, you're braver than I am. There is one that I really like in there. It's called minimum and maximum throw distance. If you have an idea what that means, I don't know. I've kind of imagined myself taking my products and trying to throw them and see how far I can get. Your guess is as good as mine. So those integrated solutions, I actually know a few business owners who are actually using Amazon to do their e-commerce, and they are doing that because they actually don't want to manage their inventory. They don't want to do the shipping and everything. They actually send big crates with their products, and they let Amazon do everything else. So it kind of makes sense for that, but I don't think it's adapted to all businesses. It's certainly not adapted to mine. Now that we've dealt with payment gateways, we can look at shipping gateways, and the message is kind of the same. All the shipping providers have their own web services that have absurdly complicated interfaces. What you can see here on the left is the schema for requesting shipping information domestically. So this is not even international shipping. International shipping is worse. And what you can see on the right is the response that they give you. I just want to ship some crap. I have a box. It's rectangular, you know, it's nothing fancy. It's a box. I know how much it weighs. I want to send it from point A to point B. How much will that cost me? And I have to do that. And I just did. I spent 2 months building USPS shipping, putting up with that, and it's a traumatizing experience. So there are some services that are similar to what Stripe is doing for payment, and this time for shipping. And this is pretty much what you would expect to be able to do. On the left, you can see a request. So basically, you're saying, yeah, I want to ship something that is that big, that is that heavy. I want to ship it from here to there. Give me my options. And your options is what you see on the right. There is no noise. It's exactly what you need. There is a cost to that. So those guys, for example, are making you pay above 30 shipments a month. So it's a fixed amount. There is a similar option that is called Easy Post. This time they are making you pay per shipment. So it kind of depends if you prefer to pay once or pay for every shipment. I kind of prefer that because I can actually reflect that in my shipping costs on the site, and it's more predictable. It doesn't depend on how much I ship every month. Yeah, so that was to give you an idea of how difficult things like shipping and payment can be, and the way the industry is evolving towards services that simplify those very complex APIs and give you a facade that is a lot simpler, which is definitely a service that is worth the little price that they ask for it. So I really like that tendency, and I hope there is more competition in that space. Now, speaking specifically of Orchard, you have a few options to do e-commerce today. The first one is pretty ancient and abandoned. It's called eCommerce Sample, that was developed by a section of Microsoft that is called DPE. Those are the evangelists at Microsoft. And I mean, it was meant as a starting point, and it really is just a sample. It's probably not worth your time. There is also the option of using one of the buttons, you know, buy from Amazon, some of the simple PayPal buttons, but really this is just, you know, if you want to make a few cents on the side of your blog, for example, and believe me, you won't make more than a few cents. There is a module called Amazon Checkout. This one has also been built by DP. It's also abandoned. But it's interesting because it's actually fully integrated with the Amazon pipeline. So if somebody needs that, they should take ownership of it, fork it and take it. It's there for the taking. There is another option called Magilia. Those are some French people who have been working with Orchard pretty much from the start, and they've developed this hybrid approach where they have an Orchard part of their web store, and they are interfacing with their existing commerce infrastructure, which has the advantage of reusing a mature platform in Orchard. And this is an approach that is a little similar to what you'll see with Onestop. And there is my own module. My approach to build that module has been that I wanted to solve my problems. I don't have a big team of developers that I can put on the problem for 2 years, which is probably what it would take to get a full commerce solution. So I started by solving just my problem. So I didn't try to be universal. I didn't try to solve the problem of everybody. And that enabled me to focus and get something that was working in a few months. And as I made it grow, it's actually reached a point where it's a reasonable solution that should be helpful to many people. But you can also take it as a starting point. You can fork it. It's entirely open source, entirely free. So take it, fork it, use it. And if you want to contribute back what you do, you're more than welcome to do that. And a few people have done that already. So I'll show you briefly what it looks like. So I'll go to my products page. So what you can see here is some of our products. They each have a bunch of photos, and I should let the script load before I do that. So you can look at the photos. This is just using the Zen Gallery module, which is a very simple photo gallery. You have descriptions. Oh, scrolling, yeah, scrolling does work. And here, what you see here is taxonomies, except that it has, I've overridden the template to render the taxonomy terms. It actually implements a convention where it looks for an image that has the same name as the taxonomy term. It's really super simple, and you can look what it's about here. And it has attributes, so you can define attributes for products. So you can have variations of a product and put them in your cart. A good example of that is, yeah, those guys here. Those are some custom cases that we build for the Raspberry Pi. And you can choose which faceplate you want in this little drop down here, and which color you want for the lighting behind it. Let me show you how that works. No, please don't remember that. This is not my computer. I don't want to give the keys to the shop to Brett here. Yeah, so if I look at my product here, and I look at the yeah. If I look at those products, notice that I use Markdown for the descriptions. I encourage you to do the same. It's much better than HTML. And we have some attributes here. And these attributes are defined globally for that. Attributes. Attributes are just collections of values. But when I put one of those products in my cart, I get the description added here. and that goes through to checkout. I talked a little about shipping. I can show you the crazy details about that. So shipping, international shipping, for example. USPS is asking us, as you've seen in the schema, in an insane amount of details. And this kind of shows here, but this is considerably simpler than what they're asking. And I did something that I find a little interesting here, is that you can actually test your shipping methods in this interface, because the parameters that they ask from you are so complex that you want to be able to test and validate your shipping here. So, for example, if I want to send 10 ounces of with a value of, let's say, $100, and I want to send that to the Netherlands. Here, I can test, and this queries the USPS web services, and I can get a good idea of how much it would cost to ship that. And I can even exclude some methods and refine exactly what shipping options I provide to my customers. And in the end, the customers can specify, when they check out, they can specify where they want their stuff shipped. Let's say, for example, that would be to my place, estimate shipping, and then you get the options, and you can select one and go on. But there is a lot of work to get to this result, and that's kind of the message. Don't let anybody tell you that e-commerce can be simple. It can't, or you're just selling some stuff on your blog. But any business is going to have some serious things to implement for e-commerce to work properly. With this, I will let Brett take over and tell you about his own personal nightmare of e-commerce.
Thank you, Bertrand, for showing us your site. My company is entirely e-commerce, and it was. We're based in Los Angeles. Here's our homepage, and a few of our recent clients are at the bottom there: Coffee Bean, Affliction, Eagle Creek. We started in 2003. Myself and another guy, literally in my garage, where I had a desk, and he would work there, and we managed to start a company where we got our first year in existence, $2 million of revenue. Our first client was Von Dutch. If you remember the trucker hats, the mesh trucker hats, that was our first site, was vondutch.com. So we started with that client, and we decided, this is a real business we can build. Shipping, running a website, doing the photography, doing the customer service, the marketing, and the software platform. So I built a .NET forms-based application from scratch back then to run our e-commerce platform. And I built a dashboard that was very crude and utilitarian, but it worked. 10 years later, we have 200 employees. We have 100,000 square foot headquarters in Southern California. We have 35 very diverse clients: apparel, Coffee Bean, Go Smile, a teeth whitening company, Spy Optic, which is goggles and sunglasses. So we've scaled our company to be not just apparel, but to also take on some other types of merchants. True Religion Jeans is a very large worldwide denim company that has been with us for quite a long time, and we've evolved as they've grown. A lot of these brands started off very, very small, and we grew with them. I'm going to talk about johnvarvatos.com a lot in a minute here. So our goals for looking at Orchard and looking at new platforms was, we had a real need to onboard customers faster. With the .NET Forms application, we found ourselves remaking the websites over and over again with the same code and just kind of reskinning them, but it became a complicated process that required quite a bit of skill and familiarity with our platform. So we also, to do updates, we didn't have a way of doing updates. So anytime you wanted to make a change, you had to go through the engineering pipeline. If you wanted to change the homepage, you had to go through the engineering pipeline. So we needed a self-service portal. Our code base had become, after 7, 8, 9 years, too kind of unwieldy, and we needed to start over. Also, with responsive design and cross-device, cross-browser, we needed a better browser-side experience, and we didn't feel that we could do it with our existing platform. Our other requirement is we have high capacity. So that means multi-node, multi-data center. If one of our data centers goes down, the other one needs to take over seamlessly. We're not hosted on Azure, we have our own data centers. So we decided on Orchard to replace our .NET Forms platform. We wanted a CMS framework based on MVC. We knew MVC is really the design pattern that we wanted, and there weren't that many .NET frameworks available that were MVC based. And we needed something that was extensible, not just a CMS. So we wanted to find a product that we could customize and build out. We love C# and we wanted to be able to write C# code. We love it so much that I actually had my license plate changed to C#. So that's my car, and that's my license plate. Some people think it's optometry or music, but those of us that know, it's a programming language. JohnVarvatos.com is a site that Elon and myself, Bertrand, Nick, Piotr, many other people have been spending a lot of time on over the last 6 months. We launched it in the end of January, and it's an example of an Orchard site where 90% of it's Orchard and 10% of it is our old platform. So I'll walk through it now. So one of the requirements was speed, number one. So this site had to perform fast, and we use Akamai and we use a lot of caching, and our goal is to make this page load as fast as possible. So the initial page load here was 22 milliseconds. That's great. That's coming from the edge here. I'll hit refresh again. Should be, there we go. That's always been a goal of mine when that one was 43 for initial page load. So that's always been a goal of mine to have sub 100 millisecond page load times. And then from there, do a good job in your browser rendering and make that as fast as possible, lightweight graphics and so forth. Very advanced navigation module where we've got multiple layers of cascading nav. Responsive design where when you, I don't know if I have enough resolution to show it too well, but let's see if we size this down. Yeah, let me close the mini card. There we go. See, it kind of snaps in like that. And this will expand to the word card if there's enough room. Very quick AJAX-enabled cart. And the entire page is output cacheable. So any custom information, such as my account or number of items in your cart, that's all AJAX loaded via JSON. Our products list page is infinite scroll, thumbnails that size depending on your preference. Still loading. So you can change the thumbnail size. When you scroll down, loading products, it'll continue to JSON load. Come on, there we go. Quick shop, rolling over and being able to add to cart from this page. We spent a lot of time performance and getting this experience as fast as possible. So this piece of code, this mini cart, is not cached, but the rest of the page is. So anyone who hits this page the next time, there, it's primed in the cache very quick. And this is running on a multi-node data center. I'm probably hitting our Virginia data center since I'm here in Amsterdam. So now I have something in my cart. View my bag. This is Ajax loaded. So the cart page itself is also, this page here is output cached, and then Ajax loaded the product right here. And when I hit checkout, this page is actually a .NET Web Forms page. It is not an Orchard page at all. It's loading in the header and the footer from Orchard, but this page and this logic is all our old platform. We have not yet rewritten this using MVC, using Orchard. It's using our old web forms, and we just made it look nice. So a lot of time spent on performance and proper SEO-friendly URLs, an animated slideshow. This client had a lot of personalized content that they're constantly changing, so they needed a CMS to be able to do this. So our client can go in here and edit all these pages themselves. And that was something, like I said, our old software platform did not allow you to do. So they manage all this content. So what is behind all that is Orchard. And what we do is we fork Sebastian's latest pushes to Codeplex, and the last fork we made was of 1.6. And so we started to try and keep up with 1.x, and at the beginnings of 1.6 we did. So every change that we'd see posted from the community, we would merge into our fork. But the velocity kind of was a little bit too fast for us, and we didn't want to risk having to retest our entire site. So we basically only merge in change sets that are known to be critical or security updates. So we actively attend the community meetings, and we actively look at the Codeplex discussion, and we know which change sets are really important. Any custom module that we find in the community, we just fork it. We don't depend on updates to be tested. We do our own testing. So we fork the modules, and then we have our own version of it. And if we need to make patches, and if those patches are significant, we'll submit pull requests. We created a custom recipe. So we have a recipe we call Onestop, and if you want to provision a client, you can load that recipe, and it will enable modules that we think you need. As soon as 1.7 is announced, is deployed, and Sebastian marks it off, we will merge that branch into our internal 1.x branch and start testing it. And we have a default branch that will continue to be the current snapshot of the live site. So when 1.7 ships, we'll merge it in and start testing it. Propping. So that is a very complicated thing that we have to deal with. It is not just pushing a button and saying, OK, here's the latest themes and modules. We have quite a few steps we have to go through. We drain load balancers. We send traffic to the old code. We prop the code to new nodes, and then we invoke the dashboard and see if all the migrations run. And then we test, and then we'll send traffic to those nodes, and then we'll update the stale nodes. So it's a whole procedure. All of our modules and our main repos are stored at Bitbucket. We really use Bitbucket heavily for the code review, the discussions, the wiki. We love Bitbucket. We just started to use Bamboo, which is another Atlassian product. We have quite a lot of engineering time that goes into our release process, MS deploy, virtual directory setup, The media folder is something that we typically don't have as part of our source control. It's just a folder. But we have to consider it when we move between environments. And we definitely feel there's a lot of room for the Orchard community to chip in this area. There's a lot of things that we're doing that other people also need to be doing, and other people do. And we have our own way of doing it. It's not necessarily the best way, but it's the way that works for us. But there's definitely some room for collaboration there and coming up with the best practices for all these challenges we have. So, as I mentioned during the demo, some of our pages are not Orchard. They're our old platform. So our options, the metaphor I like to think about it is tearing down a house or remodeling. They're both a lot of work. And we pretty much tore down the whole house, but we left a few walls up. We weren't able to tear down the house completely. So there's still remnants of our old platform. And one of them is we built an API to our old platform as well. So our product catalog, our customer database, our order processing, all are connected via API. We did not rewrite those in Orchard. It is all 10-year-old code that works. It's a 10-year-old database schema that works. And we put a very, very fast REST interface API onto that. And we've tested it tremendously. A lot of unit tests on it. We've made sure the payload is as minimal or as fat as it needs to be, and we cache it all over the place. So when you pull a product detail page, you're really pulling from cache. Sometimes it'll have no expiration either. We'll invalidate smartly. And the other technique we use is virtual directories. So we'll create a virtual directory inside an Orchard site that points to a .NET application. A little bit of our topology here. The classic pages are the My Account, checking, order tracking, and our eCommerce dashboard. The Orchard application is third-party modules and our custom modules. We connect to the Orchard database, and we connect to our Onestop eCommerce database through an API. Here's the settings panel for our API connection. We built this. It's just an endpoint URL and a credential. Virtual directory. So our parent website we call it Acme. It's not really it's the parent tenant, the default tenant. And then we have a directory here called Varv for John Varvatos. And it lives under the parent site, and that's how we can route web pages to it. One thing we discovered, I don't know, maybe someone here knows, but we had to make the app pool the same app pool as the parent. We couldn't get it working having separate app pools, so we had to do it that way. Why did we do hybrid? Because this screen is complicated. This checkout screen has thousands and thousands of lines of JavaScript and backend code, and as Bertrand mentioned, a lot of complications with shipping and payment gateway and security, promo codes. There's so much code behind this screen that we have not yet finished rewriting it using MVC Orchard. We use rewrite rules to cleverly load pages so the end user experience is very seamless. So for example, /checkout, rather than go through the Orchard pipeline and the Orchard rewrite rule module, we actually just do it in web config. So you can see here, we actually have our different environments, .local, .dev, .qa, .stage, and then www.spyoptic.com or secure.spyoptic.com, and that routes to the virtual directory name and then a web form page. So that's how we were able to cleverly kind of have both applications running under the same context. Performance levels, it is absolutely imperative that we're competing with sites like Gap, JCrew, Guest.com. We have to be on par with those sites as far as speed goes. We are compared to those. When our prospective clients come to Onestop and want to see how we're doing, they know how to use Chrome tools as well. They know how to use Firebug. They load some of our sites and they want to see how fast our pages load. So in my mind, the new benchmark is 100 milliseconds per page load, at least for initial page load. If graphics are heavy, that's bandwidth bound. But the initial page load should be sub 100 milliseconds or faster. It's been very, very challenging to build pages that are dynamic and yet fully output cacheable. It's very easy to build code that renders HTML a certain way. It's very hard to make it so that all users will hit that same page and it will make sense for all users, and then smartly have Ajax load the elements on the page that are unique to the user. Multi-node challenges. This, I like to think that cache is the third most used word in our offices after coffee and Frenchman. Frenchman meaning either Bertrand or Sebastian. Cache is, throughout our entire system, a very, very important part of it. We cannot have the Orchard rendering engine working all day, every day, when we're getting thousands and thousands of page views. We have to cache smartly. So we have leveraged and worked with Sebastian on on all these caching modules. So last fall, Sebastian coded an implementation he called orchard.caching, where it was a replacement for the built-in caching for .NET Runtime Cache, and you can override it with a provider interface, and the one we use is memcached. You could also have one for Redis or a database or file system. We use the memcached version. There's an nhibernate over memcached version module that we're working on, where right now nhibernate is per node, and because we have multi-nodes, that's n number of database queries by node. We'd like to make that just one. So for every database read and write, or read, we'd like to just have it read once and share that cache over memcached. So we're about to deploy that module to johnvarvatos.com and then our future clients. Akamai. So we've built our code to work very well with Akamai. So we have very smart cache headers, and we are very, very careful in exactly how we cache and exactly how we invalidate cache. We've debugged it. We've looked at all of this. Our clients notice. Our clients notice if the home page loads one time. If it loads in 6 seconds, they notice. They email us. They send us screenshots. They are very, very diligent in their website. It's their website. We're just running it for them. It's their company. It's their image. So we have to do a very good job, and we take a lot of pride in making sure that every page load is a fast one. Log4net. So, one thing we ran across was, okay, let's see how are we doing with exceptions? Are we throwing exceptions? So rather than looking at 25, 30, 50 nodes app data logs folder, we write log4net output to a database. So we extended Orchard to write the tenant name and the node name to the database. So we extended log4net to have some additional variables so we know what node an exception is coming from. This one's tricky, instance variables within the app pool. So any sort of variables that are in a C# class and are set in memory, that doesn't really, there's no, the other nodes in your farm don't know anything about that. So that's been an issue for us. You can change state. You could be in the dashboard and change state of something, and the other nodes don't know about it. So we're constantly having to see, okay, what piece of information does this node I'm on have that the other nodes don't have, and how can I broadcast that to the other nodes? How can the other nodes know about this? User-generated content. So when a user uploads a blog post, for example, how do the other nodes know that there's a new piece of content? How do they know to redisplay the homepage if you're displaying the blog on the homepage? How do the other nodes point to that image that you just uploaded to the blog post? So we use DFS and shared UNC paths for the media folder. We have quite an extensive topology to handle all of this. I think this is another opportunity for the Orchard community to kind of collaborate. I love the way multi-tenant was done in Orchard. It is very, very good, and we've had very, very few, very minimal problems with it. Really no problems with multi-tenant. It was designed well. I like it a lot. The scope works. But multi-node is not something that Orchard or WordPress, I don't think, have handled all that well. And so companies like ours that do have multi-node large data centers have struggled with making it all work. And I've spent a lot of time personally in trying to manage how the nodes all know about the state of the Orchard CMS. Sorry, it's hard to read, but let me see if I can talk through this a little. User comes in through the internet, hits our CDN. If the CDN has the content, it will serve it right back. If not, it will go through our firewall, our load balancer, to our nodes, and then within the nodes, our topology is it in data cache? If it's not, then go render it. If it is, then serve it from IS. We have API server nodes. We have memcached server nodes. We've got the Orchard database, our store database, our classic pages pointing to the store database. So this is just a really summary topology. This is not a detailed topology. This is a high-level topology. Multi-data center. So we have 2 data centers, one in Burbank, California, and one in Sterling, Virginia. And our business requirement is that they're both up and highly available, where if one were to go down via natural disaster or some sort of massive power outage or loss of connectivity, that the other would seamlessly fail over. So we replicate database 2 ways, and I don't know if any of you have tried to use 2-way replication in Microsoft SQL Server, but it can be complicated. And we've spent a lot of time making sure our databases are in sync. Also, memcached, we don't really want to do memcached across the WAN. So we have a separate set of memcached nodes per data center. And those will be out of sync. They will not have the same data in them. We haven't really addressed how we're going to deal with that. But it's a pretty hot failover. If a data center does go down, it's pretty seamless. So we have spent quite a lot of time making that work. So we've really embraced Orchard. We have 24 custom modules, 24 and counting, over 50 features within those modules. My company is 200 employees, but we've got a small growing army in Santa Monica working just on Orchard, working just on the new platform day and night. From a high level, we really did commit to Orchard about over a year ago. We've launched 4 sites, and we hope to launch another 4 by the end of the year. And then 2014 is really what we like to think of as a theming game, where we've got this rock-solid platform that's purely based on Orchard, has an API connection to our old platform, and we just have to write themes. And that is our goal, where we will train users, train engineers how to write themes, train designers how to write themes, publish a theme guide, and say, this is what you have to build. These are the CSS classes you need to write. These are some CSHTML you can override. You will not have to write any new C# code. So that is our goal for 2014, and we're spending a lot of time in 2013 trying to get there. So we really have bet our company on Orchard. I was very attracted to it because of its dependency injection, MVC pattern. I was very impressed when I did an initial code review a year and a half ago. And I saw it as a real viable replacement for our .NET platform that still works. People like it, but it's not our future. We're hiring. So Elon, about 2 months ago, I think, posted a job description, so go find him. That picture was taken by me on my bicycle ride to the office in February. So that is what I see like almost every day on my way to work. It's pretty, I don't take it for granted at all. It's very nice to be able to ride along the beach and roll up to the office. And I've managed to get everyone in the office riding their bicycles, and I bought a bike rack, and we all park our bikes, and I wrote name tags for everyone's bicycles, so they have to park there. And if they don't park in their spot, I'm a little OCD about it. So, but your bike can be there too. Go talk to Elon if you're interested. So I hope some of the things you may have heard me say that it sparks an interest in you in that you have had similar problems or challenges, and I'd love to hear how you've solved them, especially the multi-node issue. I'd really love to talk to anyone about multi-node because it is something I spend a lot of time thinking about, as well as caching. It's something that is a big part of my job, is managing caching, managing how cache is invalidated, TTLs, all of that. So come talk to me if you'd like, and I'll take a few questions now if we have time.
Who has some questions for either Bertrand or, there we go, or Brett, or both?
I have a question about the instance variables and multi-node issue. I haven't really started looking into it. We have a reasonably small multi-node server platform. Do you have any pointers as to where to start looking?
The first thing you need to do is use the orchard.caching module, which I'm hoping Sebastian will blog about so people know it exists besides me. Yeah, maybe?
He writes code, I don't know.
Oh, someone needs to blog about orchard.caching because it's a really very well done module that supports multi-node caching. So orchard.caching by default, its provider is .NET Runtime Cache, which is single node, and it is the fastest because you're just in memory. But we use it for memcached, so you point all your nodes to the same memcached servers, and you'll get shared caching. So that's the first thing to do. And then the other thing is have low TTLs, I think, to just, worst case, something takes 5 minutes or 15 minutes to refresh. That's how we've gotten around a lot of it.
Other questions?
Do you contribute back to the community things that you build for your own sites? Because you talked about contributing like module fixes or like things you add on, but like the stuff that you build from scratch, does that kind of go back, or what do you do with that?
Elon and I have different answers, so I'm going to let him answer.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that one if that's okay. So we're still trying to figure that part out. At first, we had placed about and announced at last harvest, in the first harvest in Santa Monica, about 5 modules we had contributed back. As our organization has gotten bigger, we're still trying to figure out how we can contribute things in an open source manner and at the same time retain the intellectual property based off of that. So we are big open source proponents. That's why we are not only here, but also fostering and involved in the community. But then we, as a large organizations, we are kind of going through that growing phase and trying to figure out how to license stuff back to the community. So we just haven't defined that yet, but that is our goal ultimately, yes. But we're certainly available to help you through things if you have questions outside of just kind of contributing the code back at this moment. But that's something we'll probably work out over the coming months.
Just to add, some of our modules are currently open source, and you can find them. We haven't exactly promoted them, but they are out there, and they're not private repositories. And then we'll do more, hopefully, in the future.
Who here has worked on an e-commerce project? Okay. Do you guys have any specific questions or even any things that you want to share? Have you done any of that on Orchard? Hands up. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. It's hard. What makes it hard?
Well, the stuff Bertrand was talking about, so payment providers in particular, we went with quite a provider that seemed to give us quite low-level access. So we had to deal with things like liability shift for when transactions were going through. Our domain as well is a bit complex the way it works. You have lots of people selling lots of different things. And so we've actually had to quite restrict some of our functionality to cope with the credit card providers not wanting us to hold on to money on behalf of other people, and it's all kinds of crazy.
Stock was a big issue.
Yeah, stock and inventory as well.
Yeah, and actually some payment gateways are they will even ask for some of your money to keep for themselves. You know, like they ask you for $10,000.
Really, they just want all of your money to keep themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know, they will ask you for money up front, and until you do enough business, that money is theirs, which is really scary. Any other questions?
Behind you.
So I understand you had your backend process well defined and kept them out of Orchard at the first. So how long did it take you to implement the front end of the e-commerce solution in Orchard?
Your question is how long did it take us to implement the front end? Yeah, quite a long time. It took long, but it's very maintainable now. We use Twitter Bootstrap. We use Knockout.js, which we really like. A lot of Ajax, but a lot of it is very reusable now. So that first site, johnvarvatos.com that I showed you, the first site that was fully, the e-commerce parts of it, except for checkout, are fully Orchard. Probably about 4 months just in the front end code. And since February, we've improved it quite a bit. And so now the next clients we onboard will be much, much easier because a lot of that JavaScript is very reusable. And it's responsive. It works really great on the iPad and other tablets. And we're working on adapting that same pattern to mobile as well. So hopefully that JavaScript's going to be reusable on mobile as well. And we just have to theme it for the size.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate all of you.